And I apologize for those of you who may have a small monitor. But this is how we're going to do the motions. Lee will, oh, Dan has his hand raised. You have a question?
Dan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the time, Chairman. Yeah, before we go in these motions, I'd like to make a couple statements. This is a very passionate group here in this meeting. And I've heard a lot of talk about consensus and a lot about what we're going to do. And, I come from the longshore industry, right? We have monthly meetings where we take a shift off and we go over our issues every month. And it's a contentious meeting. And we fight it out, but then we come out with consensus. I think that's really important. And I'm seeing a lot of contention and not consensus in this group. And I'd like to suggest some things that may help us get through this. I think, we've come to some consensus on the tough guard, on the rear underride, where there's still issues people have come across. The front ride, I'm a little hesitant to make too much of a position on that because we haven't included manufacturers who would have to implement that. And then on the side underride, we're all way off, in my opinion. We have manufacturers who want their stuff put in. You have, people that want this, that, and the other thing. So to bring consensus as we move forward, my suggestion to the group would be, we're pretty solid on the rear guard. Front guard, we make suggestions to NHTSA. And on the side guard, we make suggestions on what we would like studies to be. I don't want to draw the process out any longer. And there's been a ton of good information put out, but I think standardization and then the government giving guidance on what could be would be helpful. And the chassis demonstration was very interesting to me. I've dealt with chassis career, and they are a different animal. A solidly different animal. A trailer is going to be the same for its lifetime. A chassis is, can be 40-footer, 45-footer, 53-footer. There's a lot of challenges with them. I'm not saying that they can't be overcome, but as we make our suggestions in our report, I think we need to separate those from trailers a little bit. But I think a lot of it, in my opinion, in our report to bring consensus, say, look, let's recommend that NHTSA does X, Y, and Z. Look at X, Y, and Z, and then provide standardized recommendation. So I really want this committee to come out with more consensus and less of a minority report. I'm not really happy about filing a minority report because I think our report will be much stronger if we all come out with something. So we're not all going to be happy, but I think we should really try to achieve that goal. And thank you for your time, Chairman.
Thanks, Dan. I think one of the problems we're all encountering is the very condensed amount of time in which we have to try and achieve this goal. The committee didn't even form or meet for the first year that it was chartered, and we've only had a very short amount of time to try and get this stuff together. And I think that's causing some of the problem. I also think if we would have had the opportunity to meet in person and divide into small groups and come to consensus, we'd have a better chance, but we didn't have that opportunity there. And I think that's definitely hurt the overall product. But thank you, Dan. I appreciate what you had to say. Jim, did you want to proceed with this chart?
I'd like you to read the motions and then any discussion you want to have, and then we'll have the vote, please. So if everybody can see.
I hope everybody has the motions in front of them.
You should be able to see it on screen too, or also. Now you see it.
This is not the first motion that I have down on my piece of paper.
This is the one we needed to carry over from the last meeting where Jeff had the request. I know that you noted in your email that Doug had a similar request. but I, as a person from DOT, cannot combine the motions. If you want to combine them or dispense with them, but I can't. So that's why I have it here.
Okay,
I
I
would be
thought we
fine with-
settled that.
I'd be
as far
fine with
as,
that.
Now, there are two different issues here. Jeff brought this one up. The last meeting, on the February 8th meeting, I said, we're going to follow Robert's rules. And so since he voted against that motion, he doesn't have any standing in bringing it back up. Now,
This is a new motion. He didn't ask for consideration. He asked for a new motion. At best, it's an amendment. But as you mentioned before, it's similar to Doug's. And if they're okay combining theirs, that's a great path forward.
okay, well, there's
I'm
several
fine with-
problems.
I'm
with
fine
all
with
of that,
combining it to save time.
Okay. Well, there's several problems with that I was going to address when we got to Doug's motion. So if you want to I don't see any value in re-voting on the same motion. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't see anything that's changed throughout the last couple meetings that we're going to have any position changes from anybody. And why don't we just go to Doug's motion and the order in which they're brought up?
Let's go in order, if I may, to make it easier on your scribe. So
Okay.
motion 2 would be from Jennifer. And in the up note, you can all see the motion.
We switched to Jennifer's.
Yeah.
You all agreed that you could combine with Doug's. So Doug's is, I think, number 15, something like that. In this,
Don't
list.
we need, isn't, Jim, if I may, if that motion, if the combined,
Yes.
And just time, we have to move. We can't be arguing over the silly stuff, okay? We got 60 minutes to get through 27 motions. We got about 2 minutes apiece.
Yeah, we need to keep moving. The consensus issue is dead and buried. We've already decided what that was. I don't see any benefit in wasting more
Then
time
let's
on it.
quickly have the
Let's
vote.
just jump to motion number 2. Jim, did you want to put that up?
Okay, but the committee has to dispense with the motions. That's not something the chair yay or nay on.
But we've already yayed and nayed.
Yeah, we've already addressed that motion, and
Unfortunately, by Robert's rules, somebody can bring up a motion that's similar to a past one, and it has to be voted on. I'm
right,
hoping.
and we're gonna get to that. That's motion 15, I believe.
Right. So we'll get to that at 15.
Yes.
Right now, it's Jennifer's.
Okay.
Jennifer would like to read it, or you read it?
I'll read it. That's fine. NHTSA should withdraw its previously submitted ANPRM or reissue a revised ANPRM and cost benefit analysis that acknowledges and accommodates critiques made by commenters that the cost benefit approach taken artificially constrained the number of lives saved and also failed to account for cost savings such as fuel efficiency gains provided by side underride guards. Does anybody have any questions, or Jennifer, is there anything you would like to add to that?
No, not unless somebody has any questions. I don't. I do have a way, I don't know if when you want to address this, to where we could maybe connect that with a couple of other motions to reduce the number of motions we have.
Yeah, I know that Mary Ann put out what she referred to as friendly amendments, kind of trying to combine some. Jim was not made aware of that for whatever reason, and suggested we stick with the program that we have, the motions that everybody did get. And that's
I'm sorry,
how
I'm sorry, I was cut off. My internet died, so I'm now back. I don't know what happened.
Okay. All right. Do we need any further discussion on this motion?
I missed,
Dan?
what did I miss?
Dan?
Nothing. We haven't voted on it.
Yeah,
okay.
Lee. So
Thanks,
for
Marion.
this one, I understand the intent here. I would advise, and I would when we get to voting, I'm going to pose this as written. I would advise withdrawing an ANPRM because we talk about timeliness in advancing this issue, and withdrawing an ANPRM is not going to make anything faster. If anything, I think the concerns need to be addressed with a supplemental notice. The next step logically would be a notice of proposed rulemaking here. This is an advanced notice of proposed rulemaking, meaning it is the very first step in the rulemaking process, and drawing the rulemaking simply because there's disagreement with some of the information that NHTSA used in their assessment of the cost benefit or other comments, that's part of the rulemaking process. So to me, it makes absolutely no sense to request a withdraw when that's part of filing comments, a part of why myself, others in this group filed comments based on concerns or agreement, disagreement, what have you with the rulemaking. So I think this is only going to move things back to, the start if we ask for a withdrawal of it.
Okay, I will point out to you though, that it does say or reissue a revised ANPR.
So what is a reissue though? You don't reissue an ANP, you don't, unless I'm totally mistaken on rulemaking here, you don't have an advance notice proposed rulemaking and then a second advance notice proposed rulemaking on the same issue. You could have I think there's been supplemental notices of proposed rulemaking or supplemental advance notice of proposed rulemaking. So just to be clear on that.
Jennifer, did you want to comment?
My understanding, and I could be wrong of what I'm trying to get across here, is that if it's that they should, if they withdraw the first one, then the second one is a reissue or a revised. It would be like them just doing it again. But it also acknowledges, which I think is important, based on what you said, it also acknowledges what happened in the past. And those of us that have dead loved ones don't want to see that happen again, where they do not place value on a lot of things that should have been done. So I see no reason to change it.
Marianne?
Just wanted to simply say that to Dan, that the value in having it withdrawn is that NHTSA would acknowledge that the number of lives saved is greater than that, because otherwise that information might stand.
Harry?
Yeah, and I think maybe, and Dan, please chime in if I'm incorrect. I think in terms of the process, I think at least what I'm getting from the heart of Jennifer's motion is that there is to be acknowledgement that several commenters believe what was calculated in the ANPRM is inaccurate. But as the process would then go from an ANPRM to either a notice of proposed rulemaking, I think maybe it would be more appropriate that the committee recommend that these concerns be evaluated as the process moves forward, as opposed to a withdrawal and then a reintroduction of an ANPRM. So I don't know if that's maybe sort of getting to the heart of what we're trying to accomplish, is that we want this process to move forward, because I think, all of us can agree we want this to be done as expeditiously as possible. So the reissuance of an ANPRM would actually, I think, delay us, whereas we could get the heart of Jennifer's comments, which is that we think the cost benefit analysis as a committee was incorrect. And moving forward, the agency should consider that before publishing the next regulatory step, which would be the NPRM. So I don't know if there's some way to massage this, but I think there's validity to, because my organization is also of the opinion that the calculation in the ANPRM was very inadequate and poorly calculated. Also, like, one of the motions I have is to, that we recommend we move forward on this rulemaking. So I don't know if there's an opportunity for us to have a friendly combination wherein we urge them to move forward in the rulemaking process, and in doing so, incorporate some of this motion from Jennifer, where you have them address the concerns with the cost benefit and the cost benefit analysis they conducted.
Okay, Jeff?
I'll make sure I'm on. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm taking a slight issue with the artificially constrained number of lives saved. And,
The other part is the fact that almost every trailer we're producing right now, with very few exceptions, already have side underride, or sorry, side skirts. And I think many states require it, California being the biggest one. So the skirts are already on trailers. So for side underride guards to try to claim a benefit from side skirts is really misleading because already there. And again, we need again to look at more facts from everybody, but I can tell you right now, it's base model standard on everything utility produces. We produced, about 50,000 trailers last year. And I'm going to say of the reefers and dry freights, they all had skirts with a few exceptions where the customer wanted to put on their own or a third party skirts. So
Okay,
that's it.
Mary Ann?
Yeah, so I don't know, Jennifer, if you would be willing to prioritize, because my first and second one, the first one says withdraw the ANPRM because of the flaws. And this, my second motion says, and then issue an NPRM based on more accurate data. Would that suffice for what you're going for?
Well, I just want to make sure that we bring attention to what was missing in that one, and because there were many lives that were lost because of that. And I have no problem with us combining some of them. I actually, don't have a problem with that. That makes it easier. But I just want to make sure that the point is made that they don't come across and, we just, don't go forward on it. I don't have a problem with doing what Harry suggested, though. I have no problem with that.
Okay. In the end, we're going to use the motions to generate a report, a majority and a minority report. So we're not going to, when we're writing the report, it can just take into account what these different motions have to say and combine them that way. I don't know that we have enough time to massage all of these in order to get the phraseology right to make both authors happy, because I think that would really eat up a lot of the clock, and we don't have that much time. So why don't we vote on these as we go, and then let's use that information when the reports are being generated. Okay, Jeff,
Sounds
do you
good
want
to
to
me.
say something? And let's get to the vote.
Okay, well, I'm just going to say that the motion, assumes legitimacy of its conclusion, which has yet to be established. So definitely the wording needs to be massaged in that regard. And then again, everybody keeps talking about cost savings. I've produced probably more side underride guards than anybody else that I know of, and put them on customers' trailers and put them in real world applications. And the side guard that we put out is destroying our side skirt. That's the main complaint, is that the side skirt is being damaged by the rigidity of having something behind it. All side skirts require flexibility. And so again, we need more facts like that out there. People need to review them. I'm happy to share them with everyone. And just so, again, because a lot of these anecdotes are being put in all these resolutions. And again, we just got to make sure we shed light on things before we start making resolutions.
Fair enough. And when the report is generated, it's the anecdotes, we really want to stick with the facts, just what the committee is recommending, and then take it from there. So there's no other statements. Let's get to the voting.
You ready for the roll vote?
Yes.
Harry? When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Harry?
I'm gonna abstain.
Okay, and if everybody can unmute themselves now for the voting to help speed things up. Jeff?
I'll vote no.
Matthew?
Yes.
Melinda? She may still be away. Ted?
Abstain, please.
John?
No.
Kristen,
No.
Dan, Horvath,
No.
Lee,
Yes.
Mrs. Carth,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
No.
Mr. Mrozinski, Thomas, do you prefer
I'm going to
Tom?
abstain. Thomas is fine.
Okay, thank you. Abstain. Claire? She may be out also. Doug?
No.
Sorry, mine was a yes. I thought I unmuted. I apologize.
Claire, you're a yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Doug? You
No.
said. Okay. Jennifer?
Yes.
Jeff?
Abstain.
Okay, so that motion passed. We can move on to motion 3, which was also from Jennifer. Is everybody seeing my spreadsheet?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
Oops, too many, sorry.
Boy, this is definitely going to take a whole lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
I need to.
Okay,
record.
Jeff, Jim, if you put that back up. ACUP affirms that NHTSA, for the modernizing regular review executive memo and corresponding guidance, must fully account for regulatory benefits difficult or impossible to quantify when conducting rulemaking analysis. Any discussion, or do you want to just get straight to the vote? I don't see any hands raised. Let's just go to the vote.
Okay, Harry,
Yes.
Jeff,
No.
Matthew,
Abstain.
Melinda, oh, she's probably still out. Ted,
Yes.
John,
No.
Kristen,
Abstain.
Dan Horvath,
Abstain.
Lee Jackson,
Yes.
Mrs. Carth,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Abstain.
Claire,
Yes.
Doug,
Abstain.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Abstain.
Okay, this motion also passed.
Yes. Can you hear me? Hello?
Did I
Yes.
not get your
Yes.
vote right?
Okay.
Okay, motion 4.
Are you going to read?
Based on the rigorous analysis, the IIHS public comment, the ACUP finds that NHTSA underestimated the number of preventable underride deaths by 90%. NHTSA erroneously concluded that costs outweigh benefits when the opposite is true. NHTSA should withdraw the 2023 side impact guard, ANPRM. Mary Ann, as far as my concerns on that is we don't know that 90% is a hard number. I would like this motion better if we just put a period after underride deaths. And I don't know that we need to include that 90% number. So first thing I want to know is if you're okay with that.
Fine, I'm sure we'll have the information in the report about what came to that conclusion, but yes, I will accept that.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
Well, I'm just going to echo what I said before. I think we need more data, more evidence that that shows the effectiveness of side underride guards. The assumption I think here is that they are 100% effective and therefore prevent underrides. And I'm not sure we're there. I mean, we don't have enough data to conclude that.
Okay, any other additional comments?
Was this this isn't
yeah,
oh, go
I
ahead.
have
I'm
a
sorry.
question. I just have a question. I'm a little confused. I mean, is this sort of moot, given that we just voted on a motion that we recommend the withdrawal of the ANPRM?
Well,
and that's what I was
except
saying before,
except it does
Harry.
not include reissuing an ANPRM. It's simply to withdraw it, not to reissue a new ANPRM.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying before, is we don't have the time to massage each one of these and to fold them into each other. So we're just going to have to go with each motion on its own merit.
All right, let's call the question.
Okay, Jim?
Okay, Harry,
Abstain.
Jeff,
No.
Matthew,
Yes.
Melinda? No, she's still probably out. Ted,
No.
you said yes?
No.
Oh, no. Okay. Thank you for that correction. John,
No.
Kristen,
No.
Dan,
No.
Lee,
Yes.
Mary Ann, Mrs. Carth,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
No.
Thomas,
Abstain.
you said abstain, you kind of broke up. Claire,
So are we gonna put that period in and massage it, or is it as is?
based,
We removed 90% statement.
Okay, then I'll agree.
okay. Doug,
No.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Abstain.
Mr. Chair, a quick question before we proceed. So if we're going to refer to Robert's Rule of Orders on other things, do we not need to amend the motion that's already been presented before we just vote on it?
I did mention that, and Mary Ann, who is the author of the amendment, agreed to it, and that's why it was amended.
So I removed it from the motion description up in the note. And we will make that in the records. Does that cover your concern?
Are you asking me, Jim? Sorry.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just thought that the original motion presented, if we're going to amend it, that had to be voted on and then go back and vote on the original motion. So we don't have to take a vote on the amendment.
We did take a vote on the amendment. It was just that Mary Ann made the edit to her own motion. And then we voted on that motion, her own edited motion. So I think we're
Thank you.
good.
Okay, so that motion was a tie. And I think that means it's a not carried, if that is correct. Motion 5.
NHTSA should complete a new side impact guard cost benefit analysis and rulemaking that counts previously omitted underride victim categories, including pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. Mary Ann, since this is your comment, or this is your motion, did you want to make a comment on it or anything?
I think it speaks for itself.
Okay, Jeff, you're up.
The ACUP is dealing primarily with underride, which is cars going under trucks and trailers. These are pedestrian victims. I think she's trying to add, which may be a good subject, but I don't think we or our committee really covers that. There are a lot of pedestrian deaths caused by trucks, or not trucks, but cars and trucks. But the point is, though, that there's a different count for those. There's like, I think I looked at IHS's numbers for 2021, and they said there's like 7,000 or over 7,000 pedestrian deaths from cars every year, a quarter of which are hit and runs. And I'm just wondering, would all pedestrian deaths be put into this camp? And if we can't get accurate numbers on cars underwriting trailers, how do we, it just seems like we're adding more variation to our number. So,
John?
It's specifically pedestrians under trucks. It's not pedestrian deaths with cars.
well, I mean, I understand that, but those are pedestrian deaths. There are all kinds of vehicles. You could single out pedestrians that die from bicycle crashes, or bicycles that crash into pedestrians. It just seems like pedestrians are not in cars. And I think that our mission here is really focused on cars going under trucks and trailers. That's what our motion is, not people that might have been taking a nap under the trailer or standing too close on the sidewalk to the traffic or something like that. Because that would be, why wouldn't you apply that to all vehicles? Is my point, where pedestrians are concerned. And clearly the counts
because we're
times more.
We're talking about people that die under trucks, whether they're in a passenger vehicle or on a bicycle or walking or motorcycle. We're talking about all deaths under trucks.
Well, again, my guard, if it was traveling at the speed to, clip a bicyclist and trample him under the suspension, the guard we have would also probably harm the pedestrian a lot. I know that you can't just say it's a safe harbor, that this provided by putting us on underwrite guard. You don't know that.
Okay, Lee, can we go on to the other question so we don't run out of time?
Yes. I was just going to make the comment, when you read the purpose of the committee, provide advice and recommendations to the secretary on safety regulations to reduce underride crashes and fatalities relating to underride. It doesn't say anything specific to cars, Jeff. John, please go ahead.
Just one quick point is that the existing rulemaking that's up, all these comments have been added to the docket. So really, we should amend this to say that we want them to complete the new is basically the problem. They should complete the rulemaking, which will include evaluating all the comments that have been submitted to the docket and answering those and giving their best estimate out of it.
Dan?
Yeah, I just, wanted to flag that I have a motion later that I hope we'll consider, that I agree that vulnerable road users are underreported in a lot of fatality and injury statistics. However, I do think for the purposes of this group, they need to be treated differently. Mitigation, even side underride guards for that matter, for pedestrians are a lot different than the side underride guards we're talking about for vehicles. So I think they both need to be addressed. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think to group statistics all on as one is indicative of what a rulemaking that NHTSA is doing that addresses vehicle crashes.
Harry?
Again, ISD has consistently raised concerns that pedestrian and bicyclist crashes, which are often seen as single vehicle crashes, right? Because, pedestrians are not in vehicles. Bicyclists are not considered a vehicle per NHTSA, but that they should be included in underride crashes. And I think to Jeff, to your point, there is a difference between a pedestrian walking and a truck hitting them head on versus a pedestrian standing on a corner at an intersection and a trailer that makes a turn experiences some low speed off tracking, which then eventually causes the pedestrian to come under and ultimately be rolled over by the wheels. I think these kinds of crashes, it's not to say that any and all interactions between a bicyclist and a large truck, or a pedestrian and a large truck, are ultimately either going to be prevented or mitigated by guards, but I think it would behoove the committee to recommend that NHTSA reconsider their cost benefit analysis and do, to the best of their ability, see what benefits side guards would have in terms of reducing deaths and injuries. Because again, even though the interaction itself might not be prevented, it could be the difference between a bicyclist being pulled under the wheels and fatally injured versus them being, moderately injured. So I think I would urge everyone on the committee to support this. This is, I think, ultimately getting at what all of us are hoping for, which is to both move forward with regulatory action to the best of, the agency's ability, but also make sure that whatever regulation we're putting out is as accurate as possible in terms of all the benefits that it could possibly serve. So I hope everyone supports this. I think it's important we include vulnerable road users. We've worked with too many families who have lost loved ones in these side, and in particular in side underride crashes, when they were doing all the right things but didn't have the benefits of a protected bike lane, or weren't visible because the truck is the size that it is. So I would hope everyone supports it.
Dan?
Yeah, and thank you for your comments, Mr. Adler. Yeah, I'm in support of this motion. I think our job is to get NHTSA to do their job and look at all aspects of this. They determine that the side underride guard is maybe not suitable for that kind of thing. So we need to make them look at this stuff. So I'm in support.
Thanks, Dan. Aaron?
I just wanted to make the comment that the device I've designed is one that's supposed to, and it does protect from motor vehicle crashes and also from pedestrian crashes based on the location and the material and strength. And I believe that, the guards that are done today through Angel Wing or through utility trailer, if a pedestrian were to interact with them at a low speed in the areas where the guards exist, I believe that a pedestrian would be prevented from going underneath the trailer, and that more research is being done and will be done in the near future. And I will publish that when it's available.
Jeff?
Well, we need to know what the numbers are, how many pedestrians this is going to potentially save that, would fall in this camp. And again, we just need facts. And I mean, I just, like I say, we don't know. If we're going to tell the NHTSA to go and include pedestrians with side underride guards, we can't lead with a conclusion that it's going to save lives and to heck with it. We need to say, hey, this is what's required. We already offer side pedestrian guards on our vans. They're required in the country of Mexico. We sell a lot of trailers down there, as do many trailer manufacturers. And they have their regulations and their requirements for the pedestrian guard that may conflict with whatever we come up with or whatever NHTSA comes up with for a side underride guard. So again, it's not as simple as simply saying, well, let's just throw that in there too. Because to me, it looks like all we're doing is we're trying to goose the numbers of fatalities to increase, and we don't even know what they are.
I can see how the one underride guard would benefit both pedestrians and cars. Doug?
I'll explain it to you if you like.
For Jeff, is the existing skirt an effective underride guard for vulnerable road users?
No. It is our skirt. What we do is we put a brace on the rear end of it, and it serves as a pedestrian guard. It passes the requirements that were set forth by the Mexican Department of Transportation. And it's not too different from
you put out with side skirts already.
I called on Doug. Doug, did you want to say something?
All the trailers you're putting out with these side skirts are already compliant with the VRU purpose.
Dan?
They're mostly compliant, not 100% compliant. We have to put a special brace on the rear to make them compliant. It's basically you're talking about hundreds of pounds, not tens of thousands of pounds for a pedestrian guard. Completely different animal.
Dan?
Yeah, just to be clear, and I'm trying to pull it up here. So IIA was pretty clear about what the purpose of the advisory committee's, goals were intended for. It even went on to define underride crashes as crashes in which a trailer or semi-trailer intrudes into the passenger compartment of a passenger motor vehicle. So for the purposes of this discussion, and again, I'm making a motion later as we discuss here, I think vulnerable road users need to be discussed and need to be included in data, but that data needs to be treated separately from side underride crashes that impact, that involve a passenger vehicle going under the side of the trailer or rear impact. Two different things, and I think in some cases, two different solutions. So just to be clear of what IIJA, you know, reiterated of what the goal of this group is supposed to do.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Once again, I'm going back to what we were originally supposed to do. And I honestly cannot believe that we are arguing about whether these people that have been and could be killed in these crashes are not counted in these numbers. They're not stupid. They will understand what we're asking for. And I think this is just, I think we're going around in circles. And I just hope that you all will stop and realize and think about the number of people that are killed and dead and maimed and their broken families. I mean, I feel like I'm in a whirlwind here of a group of people that want to save lives and a group of people that want to save money for whatever the business they're in is. And it's getting really, really frustrated. If we leave it in, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. And it shows, at the very least, it shows that there should be some input put in there about victims that are pedestrians, bicyclists, or motorcyclists. They get killed in underride crashes, and that is part of our purpose. It says reduce underride crashes and fatalities related to underride crashes. Those happen. So I don't understand where this is going, and I just feel like we're getting beat over the head when we're trying to do the right thing to save lives.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jim, would you call for the vote, please?
All right, for motion 5 from Mrs. Karth, Harry, how do you vote?
Yeah.
Jeff, how do you vote?
No.
Matthew?
Yes.
Melinda, have you rejoined? Thinking not. Ted?
Yes.
John?
No.
Kristen?
No.
Dan Horvath?
No.
Lee Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Karth?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Dan McKisson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Doug?
No.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Yes.
All right, that motion 5 passed. Moving on to motion 6, again from Mrs. Karth. I'll read it, it's short. NHTSA should issue an advance notice of proposed rulemaking on front impact guards.
Harry?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like one of the things that we talk about is this idea of we want more research and we want more data. That is exactly what an advance notice of proposed rulemaking should be. It is that initial step the agency takes in terms of doing data collection and research. So I can't imagine there are going to be folks who don't think we should move forward on this. This is saying, let's take a first step towards knowing even more than what we already know about front impact guards. So I hope everyone will support this and that there isn't much or any opposition to it.
Yeah, as many comments as I've heard about we need more data, I really agree with what you said, Harry. Unless there's any other comments, let's get straight to the vote on this. Jim?
Okay, Harry?
Yes.
Jeff? Jeff Bennett?
Abstain?
Abstain?
Okay, Jeff abstains. Matthew?
Yes.
Melinda? She's probably still not here. Ted?
Yes.
John Freeler?
Abstain?
Kristen?
Sorry, my mute button. Abstain.
Okay. Dan Horvath?
Abstain.
Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Garth? You may be
Mary
muted.
Ann, are you on
Yes,
mute?
sorry, yes, sorry.
Okay. Eric,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Doug,
No.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Abstain.
Okay, that motion passed. Motion 7 is again for Mrs. Carth, also for Mrs. Carth, I mean. You want to
Jim,
read?
why don't you go ahead and read them?
Okay, Mrs. Carth's motion is NHTSA should harmonize with global front override regulations, including UNECE 93 and any revisions to it in order to provide improved motor vehicle safety as indicated in section 24211 of the IIJA. The Secretary shall cooperate to the maximum extent practical with foreign governments, non-governmental stakeholder groups, the motor vehicle industry, and consumer groups with respect to global harmonization of vehicle regulations as a means for improving motor vehicle safety. And then there's a quote from IIJA, oops, lost it. And
Doug?
I have to find it.
My first presentation showed the differences between European trucks and trailers and American trucks and trailers. And to pass a resolution that we're going to harmonize between those two, I don't know how that could possibly work. Or, I mean, we all going to get flat face trucks over here and 45-foot trailers instead of conventional
Well,
trucks.
Since it's my,
53-foot.
since in my motion, I had in the presentation had indicated that Australia has both kinds and they have front underride protection on both kinds. So no, it's not asking us to change the kind of trucks we have.
They use
Dan?
the urban environment, and we've already got the straight trucks here that do that. But to harmonize, to make our 53-foot trailers and 57-foot trailers harmonize with their 45-foot trailers, their axles don't slide. We've got a 10 to 12-foot slide that you can't cover except with the one device that we saw with the straps tensioned in between. And we don't even know what the effect of 2,000 pounds of tension on that rear underride is going to have on it in a rear accident. When you've already got it 2,000 pounds of tension on it, it's going to fold up easier. So to say that we're going to harmonize and be the same as Europe is short-sighted. Thank you.
Dan?
You just echo, this isn't apples and oranges, but my primary concern here is that I think this is also moot considering the last motion that passed, which will, recommend that NHTSA conducts an ANPRM on front underride guards. As part of that rulemaking could include, European standards or standards from other countries. So I think this is only going to add to an already lengthy report and lose focus on the primary goal here.
But we are, the NHTSA is directed by EJA to for global harmonization.
I think that's a bit of a mischaracterization there, but okay.
Daniel?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to make an amendment.
Okay, what is it?
In that first sentence, NHTSA replace should with may.
Mary Ann, are you good with that?
I want to second that amendment.
Pardon? Pardon, Aaron?
Aaron
I would
seconded
second
the
that.
amendment.
I would second the amendment just because I feel like there needs to be some flexibility. I think the idea of harmonization makes a lot of sense, but I think that maybe in some cases the U.S. trucks have greater space and greater abilities to have front underride protection, and so it may not be that we want to, direct, exact harmonization.
Mary Ann, are you
Chair,
good with that?
Chair, could I speak on my amendment? I have a second, I believe. I'd just like to say, the IAJ statement down below says they shall cooperate to the maximum extent practicable. So replacing should with may gives them that same flexibility in their statement from the IAJ.
I will accept the change if you want to put that in, Jim.
Okay. Harry, you're up, and then we'll vote.
Well, let's call the question. If that was it, I agree with the change. Let's
Okay.
call the question on the new
All right, Jim,
language.
call the question, please.
All right, Harry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jeff Bennett, vote.
Abstain?
Matthew,
Yes.
Melinda, I don't think she's back. Ted,
Abstain.
John Freeler,
Yes.
Kristen,
Abstain.
Dan Horvath,
Abstain.
Lee Jackson,
Yes.
Ms. Garth,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Doug,
No.
Jennifer,
Yes.
and Jeff Sawicki.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. That motion passed. The next motion, number 8, is from Mrs. Karth. So I'll attempt a summary, and Mrs. Karth, if I don't get it correctly, please speak up. Mrs. Karth is asking for a motion to recommend the secretary to recommend that the president should establish a presidential advisory committee for on integrity of Underride research. And then she has a list of
The same categories that are the ACUP are composed of, so you don't need to read them all.
Mary Ann, here's my line of thinking.
categories.
I don't know that we need another committee to study the exact same issue to say another thing. All that does is push this whole thing further down the road. We're already going to eat up a lot of time on the clock with the government trying their studies. So I don't think we need another committee that's going to say basically the same thing. It's just going to be a presidential committee instead of the ACUP committee. So
Except that we don't know that the committee will continue, and the committee as exists does not have access to a lot of information. So I hear what you're saying, but can we just make it, are we ready to come to a vote? Either people will want to have it or not.
I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah,
Let's call the
if I
question.
may- if I may roll,
I'll always my hand.
this
Okay,
committee
Jeff,
will
what do you
not
got?
roll into that committee. If
Jeff?
it helps anybody.
Jim, can
I'm
you
calling
say
the
that again?
question.
Am I recognized? I'm sorry,
Yes, I called you twice.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm just, again, with the number of deaths on America's roads that, we are all, I think, trying to reduce significantly. It just seems wrong to prioritize our subject over other subjects, to have a presidential commission. That just seems so above and beyond what's, normal. I really don't think our committee should be doing that.
Ted?
Can I just ask Mary Ann, what's the logic in a presidential commission or advisory committee?
That it would be established, that it would, if we are in fact unable to be provided with information to take a look at all the factors that are involved with NHTSA information, then this research committee would specifically be directed to do that kind of thing. As it says in the last sentence, they would review all research conducted by or contracted with the department.
Okay,
And
let's
that's
go with
not
the vote.
information that this committee has been able to do.
Let's go with the vote. Jim?
All right, Harry, Presidential Commission motion,
No.
Jeff Bennett,
No.
Matthew,
Abstain.
abstain?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Melinda? Oh, she's still not back probably. Ted?
No.
John Freeler?
No.
Kristen?
No.
Dan Horvath?
No.
Lee Jackson?
No.
Mrs. Garth?
Yes.
Aaron?
Abstain.
Jane?
Abstain.
Dan McKisson?
No.
Thomas?
No.
Claire?
No.
Doug?
No.
I heard you say no, is that correct? Doug?
No, it's
Okay. No is your vote. Jennifer? Miss Tierney?
Yes, abstain.
Okay, thank you. And Jeff Sawecki?
No.
Okay, motion 8 did not pass. Motion 9 is from Aaron Kiefer. Lee, would you like?
To require all new semi-trailers and single unit trucks that have crash incompatible open spaces along the sides to be equipped with side guards capable of preventing injurious passenger compartment intrusion when struck by a mid-sized vehicle at any angle, at any location, and at any closing speed up to and including 40 miles per hour. And in all honesty, I love this motion. I hope that everybody votes in favor for this one. Jeff, I see your hands up.
Well, again, we haven't, this motion seems a bit premature. Again, we don't have enough facts to support that conclusion. I know, I can share my screen if you want to see. Is that possible?
No,
That'd be all right?
I'd like to keep moving on. And we got over 70 years of studies, Jeff. You got to keep that in mind. I'd like to keep moving.
Well, I mean, I'm showing that the one of the prevalent side underride guards that's out there that's been on a 1,000,000-mile trailer, et cetera, was shown to be ineffective with a 45 mile an hour impact just aft to center. I mean, completely, it did not prevent underride. And again, we need to establish the fact that the guards do not necessarily prevent underride, and we need to understand that before we make motions like this.
Harry?
Just go ahead and prove it.
Yeah, again, I just want to remind the committee, we are not making the rulemakings. We are recommending to NHTSA what we think they should do. And again, as we've seen from some of the past motions, there's not going to be a unanimous agreement on all of those. But I think there are those of us on the committee who support this, like myself, that we should say to NHTSA, this is what you should do moving forward. So again, just a reminder, we're not the ones making the rulemakings. We're saying to NHTSA or to Congress or to whomever what we are recommending. So I support this recommendation, and I hope, as we move through some of these other ones, just that please everyone remember that we are here as advising. So we're not making the final rule. So some of these considerations about what NHTSA might encounter in a rulemaking, well, that bridge will be crossed when NHTSA gets to it as part of the rulemaking. But right now, we're just trying to tell them, hey, here's a direction you guys should be heading in. They could very well turn around and say that's not feasible, that's not doable.
We get
but
it.
we shouldn't be getting lost on that.
Jennifer, did you have your hand up?
I was just going to once again say that it doesn't say something that saves everybody. The word is reduce underride crashes and fatalities. That's
Thank
what
you,
this
Doug.
expresses.
We're asking for them to give a mandate for something that hasn't been invented yet. You can't
No, that's not what
legislate.
it's asking. Daniel,
Say again.
I said, no, that's not what it's asking. Daniel?
You have a question to the maker of the motion. New semi-trailers, and does that include chassis?
Exactly.
Aaron?
I believe that would be open for interpretation by NHTSA as to, which trailers are encompassed, et cetera, and which vehicles have a call out or an exemption. But generally speaking, from an engineering perspective, I think that chassis could have the same type of guards with the same performance level.
Okay.
Okay.
Jim?
Can I just on that real quick? It's just that,
Sure.
I think, as I said earlier before we started the motions, we really need to be focusing on, recommendations and keeping some a little bit separate. So I don't want to hand tie them. I think we need to be making suggestions to look at X, Y, and Z and the different capabilities. This is pretty general, so I may support it, but if you see what I'm getting at, we need to, when the final report comes out, I really want to see a little bit of separation, that they look at things a little bit differently because they're a completely different animal.
John?
Yeah, this is a open rulemaking, and again, they have already working on this, and so what is this is the purpose of, it seems to be in the purpose of requiring them to bypass, or rather that the ACUP committee is asking them to bypass the standard rulemaking process. But some of the comments that were made here indicated that they would go through the regular rulemaking process, which is what they're doing now. So I'm kind of confused as to what we hope to accomplish here. Aaron, can you speak on that?
Yeah, particularly, I believe that 40 miles per hour is an important target because from my research and from other research, namely the IIHS, and from other data sources, I believe that 40 miles per hour is a survivable crash in many respects in a modern vehicle. And so the goalposts need to be in a position where vehicles of the future and vehicles of today can actively protect occupants with the safety systems. And so I did put 40 in there. Well, I believe NHTSA is currently considering 35 miles per hour.
Would you be open then to say include in rulemaking procedures that a requirement of all new semi-trailers and so on?
I think the nuance is lost on me here. I'm sorry.
Well, the nuance is that I don't want to slow down the existing rulemaking, which is in process as we speak, with recommendations that we make that's going to delay things and cause rulemaking on this subject to take more time. So, as we go in and make recommendations for something that's already moving along, I think that's it stands the chance to delay it if we're saying, okay, we want you to start over again or do anything like that. So that's why I was saying, okay, make it to consider as part of the rulemaking. And then 40 miles an hour is a great point.
Marianne?
I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's any guarantee that NHTSA plans to proceed with an NPRM. So this, as far as this motion encourages them to do so.
Okay, well, I think let's call the question. Jim, would you do the vote, please?
All right, for motion number 9, Harry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jeff Bennett?
No.
Matthew?
Yes.
Melinda, have you joined? No. Ted?
Yes.
John?
As written, no.
Kristen?
No.
Dan Horvath?
No.
Lee Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Scarth?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Doug,
No.
Jennifer, Miss Tierney,
Yes.
and Jeff.
No.
Okay, motion number 9 passed, and we move on to motion 10. This is by Aaron again.
To require semi-trailers and single-unit truck manufactured in 1998 that have crash-incompatible open spaces along the sides to be equipped with side guards capable of preventing injurious passenger compartment intrusion when struck by a mid-sized vehicle at any angle, at any location, and at any closing speed up to and including 40 miles per hour. I would hope that everybody would endorse this and vote yes for it. Jeff? You're on mute.
Again, we need more facts, and I can provide several, but it seems like Mr. Kiefer is, advertising for his side underride guard, and I think we need to, try to be as impartial as possible with this committee.
Doug?
We talked earlier about the lifespan of trailers. The cost of putting that retrofit is much more than in new construction and new manufacturing, probably double. And so for the fleet of trailers in this country that gets out on the road once in a while as storage trailers, you're going to make them retrofit that for the greater than the value of the trailer. For any trailer that's in the last 20 years old, it's not in regular service, but you're going to make them all in violation at a tremendous cost.
Mary Ann?
I would appreciate it if people wouldn't put words into Aaron's mouth and assume why he's doing what he is when he's put years of his own savings and family time and effort into developing something that.
Can you hear?
Anyway.
Okay.
I can't hear.
Jennifer?
Yes, I wanted to state that it really bothers me. And I really wish that you all would stop talking about the cost. We're not supposed to be talking about the cost. And if we are going to, then why don't some of you speak up and just tell me what your loved one's life would cost what you were willing to pay for that? We've got to get off of that subject line. I'm here to represent victims and survivors. And there's people on this call that have dead loved ones, and stop talking about the cost. It plainly says that that's not supposed to be what we're doing. And I also did not appreciate the comments made towards Aaron as well. Thank you.
Aaron?
I was just going to say that generally the intent is for active trailers and active trucks on the road. So, I don't think that storage trailers in general need to be guarded. If they make a trip every once in a while, that's minimal. So I think that's a reasonable statement regarding used vehicles.
Jeff?
Real fast. I think that, again, I've got a guard. I think it'd be wrong for me to try to put motions here that would favor its design over Aaron's or anybody else's. Again, NHTSA is going to take into account the cost of implementing this. That it's in their fundamental reason for being. They have to do a cost benefit analysis. It's all part of the deal. And if we're going to get any meaningful reform through, we have to be tied to that. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time.
John?
Yeah, the cost aspect comes into this with the fact that there is a million different things that can be done and should be done. And when you go and spend a lot of money on one particular solution, that's money that cannot be spent on another solution that may be more effective and save more lives. So nobody is talking about throwing away people's lives for any amount of money. We're talking about prioritizing which is the best, and that's where the issue comes in. As far as this particular motion comes into play, I do see some conflicts that I think some of the people here might have, and I do think that in service going back to 1998 may be excessive. That's it.
I don't think that anybody is going to vote to get themselves rich out of this deal. Certainly not endorsing one product over another. This is just we want to get these Underride carriages made regardless. I don't care who makes them, just as long as they work. Dan?
Point of order, Mr. Chairman, are you arguing with the particular point, or are you trying to run a fair meeting?
Uh-oh.
I'll ignore that comment, John. Dan?
We've got 16 more to go, guys. Come on.
I would like to remind everybody, we again have a hard cutoff at 4:30.
Lee, in that vein, I'll refrain.
Okay.
Let's call the question.
Jim?
All right, Harry, on motion number 10.
Yes.
Jeff? Jeff Bennett?
You're on mute, Jeff.
I'm going to abstain.
Thank you, Jeff. Matthew?
Yes.
Melinda? I'm still not here. Ted?
Yes.
John Freeler? Kristen?
No.
Dan Horvath?
No.
Lee Jackson?
Yes.
Mrs. Carth?
Yes.
Aaron?
Based on the point that Jeff made, that since I do have a product, I will abstain.
Thank you, Jeff. Or thank you, Aaron, sorry, about Jeff's comment. Jane?
Yes.
Dan McKisson?
Abstain.
Thomas?
Yes.
Claire?
No.
Doug?
No.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And Jeff?
No.
Okay, so this motion passed also. Motion 11 is from Aaron. And that is to require the side guards referenced in motions 9 and 10 above, so the two previous motions, to also prevent vulnerable road user from passing underneath the guarded vehicle in an interaction with the side of the vehicle. So real quickly, I want to remind everybody there's lateral protection devices and there's side guards. Side guards, generally from the way the agency sees it, are for vehicles. Lateral protection devices are for vulnerable road users, and combo guard would be both of those, something that functions for both, if that helps you in your discussions.
Okay. Jeff, do you have your hand up?
Yes, I do. Basically, it's a redundant situation. I mean, you have a device under the trailer that can stop a car going 35, 40, whatever miles per hour. It's probably going to stop a pedestrian from going under the trailer as well. So I see this as purely a useless motion.
Well,
Or
that's
at
the
least.
issue when we have several individuals introducing motions. Aaron?
I mean, I don't see it as redundant. I think that Jeff is right that in general, there's going to be a lot of overlap, but I see it as a point where the designers of these types of quote unquote vehicle guards can harmonize the design without extra cost or weight, et cetera, in such a way that it protects pedestrians and vulnerable road users. So that's why I think it's worth stating.
Doug, and then we'll go to the question. Doug, you're on mute.
Sorry, it's leaving the part about interference with railroad grades and the thousands of alley dock or pit docks across this country. It's too it's too broad. And
Okay, Jim, let's go to the question.
Harry, for motion 11?
Yes.
Thank you, Harry. Jeff Bennett?
No.
Matthew?
Yes.
Melinda, are you here? Nope. Ted?
Oh,
No?
no.
Thank you. John? John Frailer?
No, did you not hear me?
No, I didn't. Thank you for repeating it. Kristen?
No.
Dan Horvath?
No.
Lee Jackson?
Yes.
Garth?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Dan McKisson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Claire?
No.
Doug?
No.
You cut off after the end, but I'm thinking no was the complete word. Jennifer
Yes.
and Jeff. Okay, so this motion also passed. Motion 12 is from Aaron. And this, I'll just read it. To require NHTSA to conduct a cost analysis of the total average cost of a fatal side underride crash, including loss of life, lost productivity, court costs, equipment cost, expert witness and attorney cost, property damage, judgments and or settlements, and other related costs.
I just ask why. I mean,
Well, let me
they're
finish.
all different.
This study should be based on the data from fatal side underride crashes, such as the crash of Riley Hine. Okay, Lee?
Jeff, your hands up?
Well, again, making reference to Riley's death, that was again, that was, the death was from burning, which was caused by driving the trailer up against the Jersey barrier. It wasn't due to the actual crash. It was a follow-on. So I'm just making reference to that is again, it's kind of a sore spot.
Yeah, I'm gonna respectfully push back. We work very closely with Eric, and that crash was very much attributable to the fact that his son's car was lodged underneath the trailer. So I just want to put that on the record. And I think my concern is that I think there are certain studies out already that I think could be updated and made more granular. In particular, when you look at NHTSA puts out, I believe it's the economic and societal impacts of motor vehicle crashes. I mean, I've always argued that I think we could benefit from having an even more specific look at truck crashes, and then even with that within that you could probably look at different subsets. So I'd wonder if Aaron would be willing to, maybe withdraw this motion, and we could talk offline to see if we could come up with, a different motion to offer at the next meeting, that sort of gets to a better, more granular look at the cost of commercial motor vehicle crashes, and maybe that being a recommendation we make to NHTSA as it works to reduce underride crashes and deaths associated with them.
Aaron?
I'm fine with withdrawing that motion and maybe thinking through it a little more thoroughly with some experts in the field. I just want to call attention to the fact that there's a lot of additional costs that are not captured in the ANPRM that really do have bearing on industry. I mean, no one wants an underride crash. I know that time is money, and it's very costly to have equipment down, drivers down, litigation, et cetera.
Okay, I consider it withdrawn. Moving on, motion 13
is from Jeff.
I believe it's mine.
Yes.
Yes. So
This motion is to conduct a study of conspicuity tape in service, focusing on the actual rates of compliance with the regulated minimum reflectivity requirements, the ability of enforcement personnel to accurately and adequately enforce the requirements, and to make recommendations on how to reduce the most common forms of non-compliance found. Any discussion?
Yes, I like it, with the exception of trying to remove the motion that I made the last time. I'm all for the study. But in the end, nobody is going to have $14,000 light meters. That's the core problem here. And if you can convince the government to buy 20,000 police departments and different law enforcement agencies to spend $14,000 on for 20,000 light meters, I'm all for that too. But I don't see that happening. So I'm not sure what if you're just trying to gut the motion from last time, or if you're trying to cause for a study, or both.
Well, you and I disagree very clearly on some of the issues of the every 5-year recommendation, and that has been we've already voted on that, I believe, maybe not. But in any case, I could stand to split those two apart, and if you want to remove the first sentence with the up to the colon this point and just say should conduct a study, then that would be helpful enough. The issue here, as far as what I want to do, is to find out what it is that causes conspicuity failures in service out in the field. If it's because the DOT guys cannot evaluate them correctly, then then they can work on that. If we find out that no, it's just that some guys just refuse to wash their trailers and they're covered in grime, then that's another issue that could be addressed. But once you identify the things, then we know what needs to be done.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm fine with that. If you remove everything before the colon, I'm good with that.
I consider that a friendly edit.
Mr. Chair, if I may, from a roadside inspector standpoint, something that I still do daily, this would be a huge task for law enforcement financially. There's no way we can afford these meters to put in every one of our vehicles that we have out on the road, doing inspections. Huge cost.
Yeah, I agree completely. I agree completely. And that's why I said that earlier. But if we want to do request that they do a study to find out what's causing the decay of the tape, I'm fine with that. I just think it'd be really, really difficult to do. Doug?
Not disagreeing that it's not an issue, but huge cost for us.
Yes, sir.
Lighting, it has a requirement if it can be viewed from a certain distance. And that's with the human eye, not with a light meter. I don't know why we can't use human eyes for inspection of conspicuity and reflectivity rather than.
There's a very easy reason for that, Doug, is what looks good to me, looks okay to you, looks dirty to somebody else, and looks clean and great to somebody else. Unless you have a number that quantifies the reflectivity, then it's all completely subjective.
Let's call the question.
Same thing.
So am I editing by removing the highlighted text?
Yes.
Yes.
And then the rest of it is as is?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Harry, for the conspicuity tape study?
We have Jeff Bennett's hand is up.
Oh.
I mean, point of order, I'd called the question.
Yeah, we've already called for the question.
I called the question. Can we please proceed to voting?
Sorry.
Tell me what you want to do.
Mr. Chairman.
Vote. Let's go to the vote.
Okay, Harry, how do you vote?
Yes.
Jeff Bennett?
No.
Matthew?
Yes.
I think Melinda's still not back. Ted?
Yes.
Thank you, Ted. John?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Dan Horvath?
Yes.
Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Carth?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Dan McKisson?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Claire?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Jennifer?
Yes.
And Jeff?
Goodness, we must agree.
Somebody needs to stop their editorial comments, please.
All right.
This motion definitely passed. Good example of consensus. or agreement, sorry, I'll just use agreement. Don't want to offend anybody, I apologize. Motion 14 is from Jeff Bennett. And that motion is do you all want me to read it, or can you quickly
Yeah, go
summarize?
ahead, Jim.
Okay, I'll read it. Therefore, it is resolved that any report from the ACUP to the secretary that claims or purports, claims or purports, sorry, I lost my place.
Who contain?
To contain, thank you, written consensus advice to the secretary on protection to reduce underride crashes and fatalities related to underride crashes will be provided in final form to all members of the ACUP at least 3 weeks before such report or advice is actually submitted to the secretary, so that those ACUP members who have dissenting or differing views may prepare their own submission to be submitted to the secretary at the same time the report of the ACUP is submitted to the secretary. Sorry, one big long sentence. Did everybody get that though?
Could we, Mr. Chair, could we have Jeff maybe add some color to that?
Sure. Jeff?
Color away.
Jeff, are you there?
You want me to add the color?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
basically what I was concerned about again is that if we were to write when we write our final report, with the simple majority, voting it to go forth, I want to make sure we had sufficient time to write the minority report, if you will. And, because again, I could just see something like, okay, we're going to turn it in on that Sunday we were talking about, and here you go, here's the final version. Well, wait a second, we need to have time to do the minority report as well. So either we could somehow do both of them at the same time concurrently, or whatever it is, but assuming that it's not, we need time to do the minority report.
And the clock is definitely the enemy here, no doubt about it. I mean, if we have to have reports in by the end of June and our last meeting is May 22nd, I don't know if we could do 3 weeks, but because I think there's going to be things happening at the next and final meeting in May. We're going to make some decisions in that meeting, and then it would take probably 2 weeks to get a final report. And then we can get it to you ASAP.
Well, I just want to make sure it's not one of those, here's our final report, and you're talking about something that we object to, and we want to clarify that, and we don't have enough time.
Understood. I just have an issue with the 3 weeks issue in here. Would a week be sufficient?
A week is better than nothing.
Okay. All right, because we're going to have time.
If you want to change it to a week, go right ahead. Well, I'm open. I'm not trying to say what exactly needs to be. I just want to clarify that we don't have one of these, maneuvers that is done at the last second to cut off, the people that happen to be in the minority.
Okay, I think that's pretty fair. You're amenable to changing that to 1 week before the reports are due. I'm good with that. Are you good with that, Jeff?
I'm fine with a week.
Okay, Dan?
No, related and less on this motion, I do think we need to devote a chunk of time at the beginning of our meeting next month to discuss about drafting reports and submissions, because I do think there's a little bit of uncertainty there. As you put
9
it,
minutes.
the clock is ticking.
Can we call the question?
So I have a question though. Are we going to be able to, do we need to come to a final vote on the report? If the May is our last meeting?
Can we talk about that in email? We got 9 minutes.
But what I mean is, are we going to be able to have discussions outside of the meeting. Are we going to be agreeing on this report through emails? Because we're not going to have a meeting in June, right?
Jim, is that permissible?
No, it's not permissible to discuss outside.
So then how are we going to do that? If we're not going
I
to have a
guess
meeting?
you just, Mary Ann, I guess what's going to happen is because I've already asked for your feedback, I guess you're just going to have to trust me.
Okay.
And point of information, I mean,
Call a question.
couldn't we just send whatever thought, let's say, as a, like, hey, I think we should add this into the report to the ACUP email and everyone on the thing? Doesn't that constitute, isn't that kosher per?
We can do this
you
in
know,
email.
things?
We can't
Yeah.
do this in
You're not
email.
carrying on the conversation by email. You can share.
Yes.
Yeah, so we can share information. I think this should be added to the report as long as it goes to everyone. Is that correct? I'm asking.
Yes, I believe so.
Harry,
Then
you're breaking up a
let's
bunch.
call the question.
Jim, is what he said accurate?
I just got permission to share that we can say we're going through the process of seeking an extension, but nothing has approved.
Oh, so that sounds like a big maybe to me.
Yeah, but
Okay.
just to clarify my question, can we send everything to everyone on the board, on the committee and the ACUP thing, and that be considered okay communication? Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Why don't you ask that in an email and we get on with these? Because we got 7 minutes left. That can be answered in an email.
You could share information with an email. You just can't have the conversation. Vote on this?
Yes.
Yes.
With the
Okay.
with the amendment in there of 1 week.
Okay. 1 week.
Change the weeks to week. Singular.
How about I correct that later?
Correct it later. That's fine. Go ahead and vote.
Okay.
Yes.
Harry, how do you, okay, Harry, yes. Jeff,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Ted,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Cart, Mary Ann,
Yes. Sorry.
thank you. Aaron,
Yes.
Jane,
Yes.
Dan McKisson,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Claire,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Jeff.
Yes.
Sorry, I prematurely voted for you. My apologies. Motion 15 from Kristen. She moves that NHTSA set deadlines for drafts of the majority and minority reports to be circulated, deadlines for comment.
And I'll make it easy, Jim. I'll withdraw. I think we'll have 1 week. Let me just withdraw this motion.
Okay.
Yay.
Number 16 is from Doug. For the purpose of providing written consensus advice to the Secretary of Transportation on underride protection to reduce underride crashes and fatalities related to underride crashes. Consensus on any piece of advice will mean that the agreement of 2/3 of the then serving ACUP members, and any piece of advice that does not have agreement of 2/3 of the then serving ACUP members will not be presented to the consensus advice of the ACAP.
Now, Doug, you brought this up because you said in the last meeting that you voted in favor of that motion. Is that correct?
This is a new
That's
motion.
correct.
Let's just vote on it. If I could be so bold.
Well, now there's a point I want to make before you're so bold. And it is my understanding that Doug brought this up because he said he had voted for this when we were at our last meeting, following along with Robert's Rules of Orders. But I have a statement from that Doug made at our meeting on February 8th concerning this question, and I think it's important that it gets put back into the record. What Doug said, and I quote, and I have the video if we need to go to that. The quorum is 75%, and that seems like a good number for consensus. Given the lopsided nature of the viewpoints of the people that make up this committee, 75% is the number goal, I would think. So what you're saying here and what you're saying in an attempt to bring up this motion is completely contradicts each other. I think this is a settled issue. I don't think we need to waste any more time on it. And I want to just keep moving and see if we can get one more
Earlier
motion.
it was
before we have to
agreed
call
that-
it a day.
Earlier, it was agreed that Jeff Bennett's motion and Doug's would be combined. So if you would like to drop Doug's and go back to Jeff's, that would be the.
No, because we said at the last meeting, Jeff did not vote in favor of that motion, so he has no standing to bring it back up.
Yes, I'm going to
Call
ask.
the question.
Are you dispensing with Robert's rules? Nobody can propose a motion.
No,
within
sir.
a-
No, sir. Not at all. And you're putting words in my mouth when you do
No, I
that,
was
Jim. That's
asking
not
you
at
a
all what
question.
I'm saying. I'm following Robert's rules by saying that Doug did in fact vote for, or vote again, did vote for in favor of 75% consensus. And now he's saying that he didn't. That's the issue here. And I want to keep, well, we got 2 minutes left.
Call the question.
All right, and we'll end this. Harry?
No.
Well, wait a minute. I want to make sure that everybody understands what's going on here. Because what Doug wants to do is go back and undo all of the votes and the motions that we've already passed in the last 4 meetings. And I want to make sure everybody
Only the
understands
ones-
that that's his goal, is to
only the
undo
ones
all
that have
motions that
seven-
passed.
that
And I
don't
don't
have
think that's right. I think this
66%.
is a settled issue and we need to just move on.
Right, I
I
agree.
think that's a misstatement of what Doug wrote. He's talking about consensus advice. You guys have had motions. This would be a new action. I don't
Call the
think.
question.
No, well, hang on a second. This motion, Doug, are you considering this to be retroactive and it would change all the motions we've already
That's what it
passed?
says. Everybody understands that. Call the question.
I don't
this
understand
is-
that, and I'm trying to make it fair.
That's exactly what it says. Call the question.
Okay,
Well,
so I didn't
waste-
hear what you said. Are you saying that it would go back and retro every motion we passed? Yes or no?
Going forward, as we prepare the statement to NHTSA.
So I
We have
want
been
to make sure
so
you're breaking up. Are you saying,
Decided on this.
Doug, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying, and you're breaking up, so I just want to know yes or no. Are you saying that,
when you're
let me
talking
finish
to
my
me all the
question.
time.
Are you saying the thing we have passed so far by less than 3/4 would be voided? Yes or no?
No, that's not
This
what
is
I'm saying at
2/3.
all. I'm
Okay.
saying going forward.
Going forward only? You want 2/3?
50% plus 1 is not a consensus.
Yes, sir, it
Unless
is.
you want.
Yes, sir, it is.
No,
We've
it's
already decided that it is. It fits the definition of what it is. and
Call the
we are
question on the
allowed to
motion
make
as
that
written.
Decision. So
Call
I'm
the
not going to
definition.
change that.
The question on the
You
motion as written.
rolled over many of us with the same view so much that
Mr.
continue
Chair?
on and on.
We're at 3:30.
That's not accurate at all. That is not
Let's
accurate
vote
at
on
all.
this and be done.
50% plus 1,
Harry?
absolutely not a consensus.
Yes, it
Harry,
is.
I'd like all
The
Absolutely, it
majority,
is.
not a
Yes,
consensus.
it is.
Look it up.
Motion, or I end the
All
vote?
the unvoted motions gonna roll over to next meeting.
Let's vote on this one to end it. Harry, what is your vote?
No.
Jeff?
Yes.
Matthew?
No.
Melinda's not here. Ted?
Yes.
You
Matthews
skip
didn't
Matthew's
take.
vote.
Matthews
Oh,
didn't take.
Matthew, I'm sorry. Please forgive me. What did you vote?
I voted no.
Okay, thank you for that correction. Ted, I got yours. John?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Dan Horvath?
Yes.
Lee?
No.
Ms. Garth?
No,
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
Aaron?
No.
Jane?
No.
Dan McKisson?
Yes.
Thomas?
No.
Claire?
No.
Doug?
Yes,
Jennifer? Ms. Tierney?
No.
What'd you vote?
No.
Thank you for that. Jeff?
Yes.
So the
Okay.
motion,
Can we put this issue to bed now about what the definition of a consensus is? I'm really getting tired of wasting time on it. Thank you.
the meeting is over. I will get advice from my legal group as to how people can make or not make motions. Thank you all very much for your time. We will get this all approved. We'll get meeting minutes out and get that all to you.
And so do all the motions roll over to the beginning?
Thank
next
you.
meeting?
Thank you, Jim.
See y'all
Bye,
next
Jim.
month. Bye-bye.
Do all the motions roll
I
over?
will
to the
send
beginning
out,
next-
yeah. I will
Great
send
job,
out-
Jim. Thank you.
I think they said yes, Mary Ann.
Thank you, Claire.
I think he said yes, they would roll.
Thank you.